What's going down, beautiful people? Welcome back to Ride with the Valet. I'm Valet Delroy. Tonight, I just wanted to catch you guys on this quick little journey that I'm on one time to expound on some thoughts again. Tonight I want to talk about interpretation or interpreting, right? I think we need to throw this out the window, okay? Because your interpretation is trash. Your interpretation is pointless. Your interpretation, for the most part, has nothing to do with the interpretation, and it needs to stop. What do you mean, Valet? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Okay, I'm so glad you asked. I was talking with a friend. The topic comes up, okay, because we're both looking at something, and we each have, let's say, our own vision for what we're looking at, yeah? Let's say we're looking at some descriptive words, and we're trying to place the scene on what's being said here. In both of our minds, we have two different ideas of how this scene is being played out. So each one of us is putting forth our interpretation of something that maybe both of us, or maybe one of us, only one of us, actually knows something about. How can we both be right? What if we're both wrong? Right? And if only one of us is right, does it matter to the other person who's already interpreted what they believe in their own eyes? Now, do I think interpretation is needed in this world? Yes. Do I think interpreting is a very useful skill, useful tool? Absolutely. But we need context with interpretation. You see, interpretation is needed, right, when something is known and something is unknown. Let me give you an example. Okay? You speak up one language, I speak another language. Right? We are going to find a translator, right? Somebody who can take your words and turn them into the words I use. They're going to translate it from your words to my words, yeah? And they're going to do it by way of interpreting what you're saying and telling me, giving me the same message, because he knows what you're saying and he knows what I need to hear or see. This is someone who is using interpretation, explaining, right, to me what I don't know. Now, let's just take that moment for instance. Interpretation involves something that is known. Somebody has to know what's being interpreted in order to interpret it to somebody who does not know. The problem I'm having with interpretation these days is that people who don't know seem to want to interpret things of people who do know. And that seems quite backwards to me. Yeah? How come every time I put forth a word or explanation or tell something like it is, here comes somebody else saying, well, my interpretation of what you said, what do you mean your interpretation of what I said? I'm the only one who can interpret what I said. You're guessing at best. Yeah? You're guessing. You're trying to rearrange or reorder my words, and what actually ends up happening is the person who's doing the interpreting ends up saying or making up something that has nothing to do with what the person actually said. Twisting the words into something that seems more acceptable to them rather than something that they didn't understand that needs, explanation, some shedding light on. You see, it's one thing if I say, I don't understand what you said to me. Could you find a better mode of interpreting what you just said to me? Because I don't know, right? And even in a two-way conversation, you know what you want to say. You said it. I don't understand exactly how you put that. So I'm going to ask you for further interpretation, right? Some further explanation, some further seeking out, some further use of your imagination to make plain to me the thing that I do not know, the thing that I do not understand. You have to know it to be able to interpret it to me. But someone who does not know cannot interpret. That's foolishness. And somehow we've come to a point, to a place in time, at least in my generation, where people have gotten a little bit too comfortable, too used to interpreting things they have no business trying to interpret, because they don't want to accept what something is or what something means or how something is given. They call themselves wanting to interpret it, right? And basically all you're saying is, my way of seeing it, what I think about this, what you're doing is you're just putting forth your own opinion. It's unnecessary. It's not needed. It don't matter. It has nothing to do with the truth sometimes, or the facts for that matter. If you're placing your own meaning to someone else's already formed meaning, it's a horrible act. And for the sake of not offending people or getting to little disputes and vague confrontations over people's feelings, sometimes we let that misinterpretation fly. These misinterpretations. The Creator defines the thing. If I create a chair, it's a chair. Even if you use it for a stool, I am interpreting this chair into a stool. I'm interpreting this chair into a workout session. No, nobody cares. That's great. It's still a chair. You understand? So if I express to somebody, hey, I don't like how you're talking to me, right? Am I the one misinterpreting how this person is talking or what they're conveying, right? If the person responds with, I'm sorry you don't like the way that I'm talking, but I'm not trying to be quote-unquote rude, right? This person is trying to make clear, hey, you might not like what I'm saying, but I'm not trying to be rude. It gets real murky when somebody starts saying, well, the way I'm interpreting how you are doing something, right? Can basically be you hijacking a moment, a situation, something that has nothing to do with you, and making it about you. These false interpretations are getting people in a lot of trouble. You're misinterpreting people's feelings and how they express them. We're misinterpreting people's words and how and what they mean when they say them. We're misinterpreting people's actions and what's going on when they do what they do, all on account of how we personally feel or how we personally see it. This is not a vantage point. You know what I mean? We are not giving our expressions of how we personally feel in an interpretation. An interpretation requires that the thing not actually be changed. And we could go down, a list of many more circumstances where misinterpretations get people into a lot of trouble. Let's just list 3 briefly, and then I'm going to get out of here because, although I'm shedding thoughts and, letting ideas go, I don't want to exhaust anybody. I don't mean to offend anybody. But I do mean to be honest. I'm trying to be honest. And if I'm wrong, you can come and correct me. That's what the comment section is for you to share. And I would love for you to share. If not for me, for others. But let me continue. Misinterpretations. How we are using interpretation wrong. Because 2 people interpreting the same thing differently makes no sense. Okay? Makes no sense. Somebody has to... The creator has the definition of a thing. The one who interprets it is either the creator or one who is able to convey what the creator has done. All right, I'll see if I can try to make some better sense of this. Let's talk about relationships. Relationships, yeah? How much trouble do people get in when they misinterpret relationships? I feel like this is the problem with dating. People want to interpret what the thing is, but they don't actually know what the thing is. So they never know what they're actually doing. They never know if 2 different people interpreting one thing 2 different ways. How can you be doing the same thing? You cannot. Okay? But in relationships, okay, just because you are someone's best friend does not mean that they are your best friend. Because you could be interpreting your relationship wrong. Just because you are willing to go a certain length with someone doesn't mean that they're willing to go the same length with you. Just because you guys have a relationship. You're misinterpreting maybe your importance or their importance or your boundaries or their boundaries, yeah? Relationships take what? A whole lot of communication. Why does it need communication? Because we want to know. We want to know the who, what, when, where, and how when it comes to each other, so that we can respect each other, so that we can benefit one another, right? So that our relationship is pleasing to us. Otherwise, what are we here for? Right? Or people who, have work relationships in the sense of we work together, but we're not friends. Sometimes people misinterpret their relationships. Okay, I'm not going to go further and further because you can put that on any level, yeah? Let's talk about, not extensively, but religion. How much misinterpretation goes into religion? It is wild. Now, I like religions. I like talking about religions. I like learning about religions. I like studying religions and history when they came about and how they formed and how they've changed and yada, yada, yada. But I was raised myself, in Christianity. Yeah? And one thing that always puzzled me is how people want to interpret the Bible. Now, I'm not going to, trust me, I'm not going to, go way off in left field. But let me just express my idea of this thing called interpretation. most people don't really read the Bible, or they haven't read it exhaustively or extensively enough to say that they read the Bible. Okay? To know it, to know what's in it, to know what it says, to be able to, put it into context in many ways. But many people look at what's in it and say, well, this is what it means to me. I interpret it this way. Somebody else might interpret it that way. And I used to think, man, you can look in the Bible and interpret it 100 different ways, but obviously that's not true. There is an author. And the author who may have intended to say something, and how you interpret it doesn't matter. And I don't mean to offend anyone, like I said, but okay, take this out. People say, there were many Bible, writers of the Bible, so therefore there are many interpretations, so many different personalities, so many different things. But to the person who's in Christianity, believes Christianity, they see that there's only one author, and that author is God, who inspired man to write the words that God wanted to be passed on or conveyed to men. Therefore, every word that has been written belongs to God. God would be what? The definer of the messages and the stories and the ideas that are being portrayed in Scripture, yes? Meaning that God is what God had interpreted, because nobody speaks God language. Obviously, if there are many languages, right, God will know all of them. If he broke them up and split them up, hey, God is still above all languages, yeah? Every language God knows. So the fact that God would communicate to humans in human language, whatever language that may be, would mean, right, that God has interpreted, right, his vision to humans. Not that humans heard God and then turned the words into their own interpretation and gave those to us as if, well, God said something like, here's the Bible, right? And that's just, or for someone who's in another religion, right? And again, I don't mean to offend, but if, a message is passed down to any kind of prophet, soothsayer, or person who will receive any message from God or a godlike figure in their religion, right? It's the God who is giving the interpretation to the human, and it's the human's job, right, to convey that, right, not to change that meaning or to make up a new meaning or give new meaning to something that is already meaningful. Okay, I don't want to keep going around with that, but do you see why religion has so many denominations and interpretations? Because so many people don't know what they're reading, don't know, right, what they're looking at, so therefore they're making up, they're interpreting what sounds good, what seems good to them. And maybe some of that has benefited people, and maybe some of that has not. All in all, the interpretations, the self-proclaimed interpretations, are trash. They're horrible. They still need to stop. Don't matter if it's religion, relationship, or rules, right? What is the idea here? That rules without relationships create rebellion. Isn't that so crazy? Right? How do you interpret rules? If I say, or if your boss says, or if the law says, don't do such and such, I'm sure every single one of us understands that we take liberty of interpretation sometimes into our hands to what? Make life a little easier on us. That does not negate the fact of what said rules or laws would be, right? If it's a stop sign and you're supposed to stop, why are you rolling? Well, nobody's around, and I just don't want to put that wear on my brakes. Like, we take the liberty to interpret when it benefits us, But when it doesn't benefit us, sometimes, right, we misinterpret, try to reinterpret, or just downright make up something brand new. All in all, if we would just take a little more time to investigate, inquire, use our imagination, and it doesn't take wisdom to find knowledge, okay? Because knowledge is about what's known, and finding out what's known, like, we have the tools now, and we should only interpret what we know. Okay, that's my message for 21 minutes. Stop letting people get away with misinterpretations, false interpretations. It's just downright nonsense. Okay, stand by your words. Say, no, I said this. There's no other interpretation of what I said. This is what it is. And when somebody tells you something, don't try to twist it and turn it and make it into some other interpretation just because you don't like it or understand it. Seek out that knowledge so that you can know. Translators are great interpreters because they know both sides. Outside of a translator, the interpreter will be the person who gives the meaning, or someone who actually knows what the meaning of what someone or something is. And they interpret it to someone who does not know. Well, I hope that we can all become interpreters of love and spread the love, something that we know. And if you don't know, hopefully there's somebody in your life who can interpret that love to you to help you get through. You can take what's in your mind, turn it into something that's tangible, valuable, beneficial for yourself, for others. All you have to do is believe, be willing, and get to work. I guess I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.